Leica M-A. In my eyes, one of the best film cameras still made today. And the grail of the pure mechanical film shooting experience. It's not the camera for most photographers, and even could be next to unusable for many, partially because it's actually quite limited in features. But it's a one-of-a-kind tool that I rely on to make images the way that I like to, when pure mechanical dependability and split-second timing matters. And it's a 35mm film camera that you can still buy brand new today. I've had mine for a couple of years now, having shot with an M4 for years prior. I've already shot hundreds of rolls through mine, and it's the camera that I like to use for my personal, everyday documentary work, travel, and sometimes the occasional other use or client work, like portraits and such. I didn't buy mine brand new, but rather secondhand in near new condition with the box, and I paid about half of what it costs today for a brand new one. So it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up to change over from the M4, the camera that I also loved using previously. I had always wanted a black M4, but they were way out of reach and not really worth the prices that they demand. So the Leica M-A is a 35mm film rangefinder camera released in 2014. It weighs almost 600 grams, so it's pretty hefty in the hand because all that weight is concentrated into this little block, but it's by no means overly heavy, especially when you consider the size of the Leica M lenses, which is what makes it so good for the type of work that I use it for, which is just everyday stuff and travel, where you want that compact size and that dependability of the mechanical shooting experience that the Leica M-A offers. It gives you full manual control, there's no light meter, no electronics, so it's just a bare bones film shooting experience. So it's pretty much like any other Leica M film camera, shutter speeds from 1 second to 1,000th of a second. The Leica M-A in particular lacks any decorative features, very minimal engravings and markings, especially on the black chrome version that I have. It has the reminder dial, the ISO reminder dial on the back. It has the 0.72 magnification viewfinder. Compatible lenses range from 16mm to 135mm, and the frame lines available on the camera are 28, 35, 50, 75, 90, and 135mm. It is compatible with motor winder and some other accessories. It has the built-in frame counter, no self-timer on this model, the M3 style rewind knob, and all metal features. Now on that note, my particular camera has the advanced lever swapped over to the one that's the same as the M4 and M6, which does have that bit of plastic, but I actually got so used to that on the M4 that I prefer that style of advance. I still have the original available if I ever want to swap it, and I've also added this little accessory for rewinding, which is by a company called Zoom, and the strap I'm currently using is by Tap and Die. So in terms of the finish, it's a black chrome, really minimal, no red dot, no big engravings as mentioned, and that means it doesn't brass in the same way that a black paint camera like the black paint M4 or MP, for example, would brass over time, but that is something that I preferred. I like this minimal, discreet black finish of the camera. So yeah, that was one of the deciding factors for me when going with this over something like an MP. It might not be the same for everyone. And of course, the thing we've touched on already in the video is the lack of electronics, the lack of a light meter in this camera. I am a type of photographer when it comes to doing this work that I do with the camera where I don't really rely on the meter. I don't use it. If I had one in the camera, it would probably be distracting to me. I got so used to using the M4 without the light meter. Sure, you could have one in there and just take the battery out, but I got a good deal on this particular camera and I've never wished I had a light meter in it, and it's just the way that I tend to shoot with it. In some situations where I'm shooting a bit slower and I want to be accurate, I might pull out a handheld meter, which will give me a more accurate reading anyway, because I can angle it the way that I want, use an incidental reading, for example, when doing portraits, and rely on that if I have the time to. But a lot of the time I'm just shooting quick pace stuff where having the meter and looking at that would probably just slow me down, and I've just gotten really used to using Sunny 16, and I think that's the type of photographer that this camera is for. And that transitions us into the next section of the video, which is, who is this camera for? Who would I recommend it for? And I think it's exactly that, as we just touched on, someone who doesn't want the light meter in a Leica M rangefinder and doesn't think they'll ever use it, because you have to make sure you're going to be compatible with that. I actually have a whole separate video on that, so I would defer you to that if you're not as familiar with Leica M rangefinders, you've never used one, you're in the place where you're thinking about getting one. Go and watch that video first or after this one to get an idea of who I think these cameras are for, because I wouldn't really recommend it for most people. I think it's too expensive, to be honest, for most photographers, and it's hard to justify, especially if you're paying the brand new price for one. But if you know that you're okay with that, then this particular model versus the M6 or MP, for example, just comes down to the light meter. I think the other differences are minor. They're mostly aesthetic, and that is what you want to figure out whether you need or not. So in general, I think the Leica M-A is for someone who is heavily into their street travel and documentary work, takes it very seriously, and will ideally use the camera a lot for that. Because if you're going to pay that much and just put it on the shelf, to me, that seems like a bit of a waste. But at the same time, these cameras hold their value. So if you have that much spare money to blow, to take that money and put it on the shelf for most of the time, then that's fine too. You can always resell it and get your money back or even more. So yeah, it just really depends on your financial situation. But for me, it was a camera I, sold the previous camera for, saved up, and really have been putting it to use. And if I ever stopped using it enough, I would probably just get rid of it and get something cheaper. And if you're in the market for a brand new Leica, I think it's a good place to be, because secondhand ones have gotten so expensive in price. For example, secondhand M6s, M3s, M4Ps, whatever, they're all great deals and they're still going to offer you better value than this. But you have to realize that a lot of those are, 30 years old maybe, and they are not going to be as reliable, and you're not going to get that brand new camera experience. So if you want the brand new camera, you've only got this, the M6 and the MP. So again, if you're deciding between those, think about the meter. And I've also got a video that I've linked on Robin's channel where him and I and Josh talked about the differences between these three brand new cameras that Leica still has available at the time of making this video, and what drew us to making the decision for each of those cameras and what we would choose if we were to decide all over again. So check out that video if you're in that position, trying to decide between the three Leica M film cameras that are still available brand new today. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover for this review. There's not too much detail I can or think it's worth going into. If you want more history, background, and a few more specs, I would highly recommend checking out my favorite review on the camera, which was on Analog Insights channel. Max reviewed that camera over there. Fantastic review, so I'll put a link to that if you want to check that out. And I think the camera just speaks for itself in terms of what it can do. Again, it's not for everyone, but it's the camera that I enjoy using for the work that I do. So yeah, I've shown images that I enjoy making throughout this video, the type of usage I like getting out of the Leica M-A. And if you'd like to view them in more detail, including the film used and lens, for example, you can do so on a link that I'll place in the description of this video. This gallery is available to view on desktop or mobile via a client gallery on my website, which is hosted by this video's sponsor, Pixpa, the easy all-in-one website builder for creatives. When it comes to sending photos to clients, friends, or family, just Dropboxing them will often suffice. Oi, your photos are ready.
Oh, sweet.
But sometimes it's nice to send photos in a neat and organized manner where they can be viewed and shared online for convenience. Pixpa's client galleries allow you to do this with a range of controls and features on your end and the recipients for privacy, downloads, proofing, and more. I've been using Pixpa for years now for their client galleries, as well as for my website, online store, and blog. They have great value plans compared to the other providers out there, and as a person who's pretty unskilled and lazy with making websites, I find their builder super easy to use with all the beautiful templates and the seamless app integrations. You can easily start an online store to sell your photos, zines, or other products. They have excellent SEO features and offer 24/7 fast and proactive customer support through live chat and email. Pixpa's versatile platform has everything you need to showcase your work, share ideas, and sell your stuff online. So try Pixpa for free using the link in the video description and use my code for a discount on your first annual plan. So thanks to Pixpa for sponsoring this video. I've genuinely been enjoying using their services and I highly recommend them. And with that, I'd like to conclude my review on the Leica M-A, my favorite camera, the camera that I use the most, my daily driver, camera that I love and highly recommend for the type of person that will use it the way that I think it should be used, or if you just really want one and have the money to spend on one. But again, it's not for everyone, and I thought I would just put this out there to share why I love this camera, how I use it, and what I think is best about it. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try and answer them as soon as possible, or feel free to message me over on Instagram. All the details are in the description of the video. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you on the next episode of Pushing Film.